All right, so we're here with Cathy Renna and Jamie Grant from the National LGBTQ Task Force, and we are so excited to have the girls here today. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Great to be here.
I wish we could be in person, but you know, that little thing called COVID. I feel like it's been forever since I've seen you, Miss Cathy. I saw you at the gala months and months and months ago, and let me tell you, you were looking fine.
Thank you.
You're supposed to say right back at you, Faye. You were looking lovely.
Oh, sorry. I was actually thinking about how great Kiera looked, but that's a whole nother issue. We'll talk about that later.
Oh my God. We had, yes, Miss Kiera Johnson was on the FayWhat show weeks ago.
Rip the boss.
And she is just incredible. And Miss Myra Hidalgo, I mean, both of them are just, wow. They make me proud to have a vag. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, they're just wonderful, wonderful human beings. But girls, we've got so much to talk about. So let's get to it, because I know you girls are busy saving the world. So the National LGBTQ Women's Community Survey, all right? I'm proud to have taken it the other day. Tell us about it and why it's so important.
Sure. Well, there is no national data. There's been no national community survey on LGBTQ women who partner with women. It's kind of hard to believe that we're all the way to 2022 and we don't have a huge sample of the great diversity of LGBTQ women that looks at our lives in a comprehensive way. There are 170 questions in the survey. I'm sure you remember it takes a while to finish. And it's because we want to be able to see how all these different issues are playing out in our lives and how one domain affects another. So we don't really have anything like that to date. So that's why we decided to do it.
Well, I took the survey, like I told you, and I had to wait on a 2 hour and a half COVID line. So hey, what do you do when you're online? You take a survey, right? And it was very thorough. Tell us a couple of the questions that are on the survey.
Yes, well, the areas we look at: health, we look at education, we look at sex and sexuality, our gender identities, our families. How are we forming our families? How are we sustaining our families? How are we sustaining ourselves? We looked a lot at economic injustice and justice issues, policing, violence. We're asking a lot of the people who are taking the survey. I mean, I'd love for you to say a little bit about how it was for you to go through all those questions, because it's so important for us to know. And we wanted the survey to also be supportive of you as you were taking it. So what was your experience taking it?
Well, I mean, okay, first of all, it takes like 20, 30 minutes to finish the whole survey. And I love and appreciate the fact that you can start it and then go back to it and you don't lose any of the answers that you have put in. That was super important to me because my ass is lazy, right? So, and I loved how thorough it was when it came to how did you feel at this time of your life? What were your sexual partners during this time of your life? Did you identify as a woman at this time of your life? It was super, super thorough. And I didn't feel like any of the questions were intrusive or past a certain line. I thought they were all questions that needed to be asked, and I've never taken a survey that asked questions like this before. How important is this data? Where does this data go to?
I can do that, Cathy, or if you want to talk about it.
Go for it. No, go for it.
Yeah, well, I mean, policy, right? I mean, I still feel like I've been in the movement since the late 80s, early 90s, and I still feel like the things that really have affected my life as a woman who's partnered with women and trans folks, trans men and trans women, that the issues that I really need to have a good quality of life are not really addressed in the larger culture, right? And in our movement priorities. And we really want this data to be able to speak to a 360-degree view of what the challenges are for LGBTQ women who are partnering with women in our lives. How are the different systems that we're coming in contact with impacting us? And this data will give us the direction that we need to go in to have comprehensive policy that makes our lives livable, so that we can thrive.
Why has this survey taken so long, Cathy? We're here, it's 2022. We are the first letter of the acronym. Why is this data something that we're finding about now? I would guess that the gay boys probably had a survey back in 2002.
Well, I think it was Kiera said it best when she was on your show recently. It's like we can sum it all up in a word, like sexism. But not to be glib, but like we're also having a little bit of a reunion here. Jamie was at the task force and headed up so much of the important research that the task force has done over the years. I mean, we as an organization understand that, if we're not counted, then we don't count. So whether it's, supporting this survey, working on the National Transgender Discrimination Survey, which Jamie was a key part of, whether it's our Queer the Census work to, do advocacy around, other data collection that is not inclusive of queer people, this is really, really important stuff. I mean, sometimes it seems a little wonky and nerdy, but that's why we're doing so much to get women to respond to this survey, because we just simply don't have this data, for obviously some of the simple reasons that, like what I just said, but also because we now have the resources, and the ability to reach out to folks. And in particular, and Jamie can speak to this even more, is really reaching diverse communities, cross demographics. I mean, one of the things that we need to understand is it's not just letters. LGBTQ is about our sexual orientation and gender identity, but we also need to look at our race, our economic status, where we live geographically. Are we in a rural area or an urban area? There are so many variables that we need to look at as an incredibly diverse community, and this survey really does that incredibly well.
I love how inclusive this survey is. Okay, I've never seen something like this before of its kind. I am a firm believer, and I am a huge ally to my trans brothers and sisters. If you identify as a woman, that's it. You should be under the woman umbrella. There is no ands, ifs, or buts in my book. Right. Okay,
Yes.
Period.
Yes.
End of story. You are a woman living the trans experience. You are a woman.
Yep.
Done. Period. I've never seen a survey like yours that was so in depth and included the trans women like it should have been for years.
Forever. Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the things we want.
I was going to say the simple way to answer why it's so inclusive is to look at not just me and Jamie, because we're like the two white chicks here, but if you look at the full group of both the folks putting together the survey, doing the outreach for the survey, advisors for this survey, it is an extraordinarily diverse panorama of folks who are all impacted by what will come out of this. And I think that's the key. There's such intentionality in putting it together from the get-go, from the individuals who were doing it. I mean, having someone like Urvashi Vad at the helm doing this is really important, because we as a community have not always done the work that we need to do around making sure that we have racial diversity in the things that we're doing on a daily basis.
So what is, we're fighting, go right ahead, Ms. Jamie, sorry.
Or that we're fighting racism as a queer project, right?
Yep.
Fighting racism is a fundamentally queer project, in my view, right? That's how I came into the movement. So, we want this survey to really bust through researchers' ideas about who we are, what we care about. I mean, I hope all the surveys after this, recenter what their ideas of an LGBTQ women is, that whole category, the way that we define it, because of the architecture of the survey. As you say, Cathy, we have a dream team of LGBTQ women activists and trans men who put this together. And so the language of it, as you say, is our language. It's not the language of some discipline out there or some authority that's trying to do something to us. It's us talking to us, about us, trying to change, the world for ourselves. And that kind of project, the self-determination in it and the creativity in it, it's amazing. And we want everybody in this data set. This is going to be the largest data set on LGBTQ women's experiences in the world, we hope. And we need everybody's story.
Thank you so much for that. And I've got to just reiterate what you said. I take surveys here and there, and they become, they're lengthy and they're wordy, and some are very confusing. And I really did feel that the wording for this survey was simple, to the point. I wasn't lost, and I was expecting to be, and I really was not. When is the final day that we can still do this survey? Let us know when this is over.
Yes, we are in the field until the end of March.
Okay.
And we really want to be able to come out with data this summer that is going to impact elections, right? That is going to have an impact on getting people out and really defining issues for us and for candidates that are critical. So
okay,
get everybody to get out and do the survey now.
End of March, the link is going to be on our website. Folks, women, share the link, get all your friends to fill it out. This data is super, super important. You guys are always fighting for our rights, fighting for our community as a whole. The Creating Change Okay, the Creating Change Summit that usually, I think that you guys had rescheduled it, COVID. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. It's kind of heartbreaking because it would have been the first time we're getting together in person. Creating Change is the premier queer activist conference. This is the 34th year we're doing it. I think I've only missed like 2 of them in my life. So, unfortunately we had to go virtual. So we're not in New Orleans. I would currently be having like a coffee and a beignet if it was happening this weekend. But, we had to make a decision, and the health and safety of the folks in our community is the most important thing that we can put as a priority. So it is being postponed. We are going to be doing a sort of abbreviated version of the conference on May 19th and 20th. You can go to creatingchange.org or just follow the Task Force social at the Task Force on Instagram, Twitter, and we're on Facebook to find out about registration. We'll be having some of the larger components of the conference, like our keynote speaker, Alok, who's an extraordinary writer, activist, speaker, fashion model, who's a non-binary, is actually a relative of Urvashi's, and also be doing
on
our
the survey team
movement. And on the survey team, that's right.
On the survey team.
And also we'll be doing a live State of the Movement with Kiara Johnson and Maida Hidalgo Salazar, which is kind of like our queer version of the State of the Union, and several other pieces of programming. But, the interesting thing is, Jamie and I were talking about this before we started the interview. One of the things we've learned with COVID is that by having virtual events, they become much more accessible to folks who may not have otherwise been able to participate prior. So this is really the kickoff of what we're calling Creating Change 365. Now, Creating Change is a premier program of the organization, but we've been doing so many virtual events over the last 2 years. It makes so much sense to have this just become the gold standard for the way that we engage with folks on a regular basis, on a monthly basis, especially in this year as we're going to be needing to do a tremendous amount of engagement, outreach, conversation, discussion, and education as we approach the midterm elections. So we're really excited about it. Again, disappointed, but we're doing what we need to do to keep everybody safe.
Cathy, it's the world that we
Cathy-
live in right now.
Kathy, can you say the date again? Because I think you said the wrong date.
Oh, March. Did I say May?
March.
You did.
Yes.
Oh boy.
So
I'm getting ahead of myself.
Let's tell everybody again. It's in March.
It's March. Let me say that again. It's March 19th and 20th. Sorry about that. March 19th and 20th.
Great. Okay, so Creating Change, it will still be an extraordinary event. Catch it virtually. It's powerful stuff that we need to support for sure. Now, still talking about COVID and things that are canceled in our community, I think that you've got a little announcement for me, Cathy, about something else that's going to be canceled, unfortunately.
Yeah, and this one is even more heartbreaking, and I know it's particularly heartbreaking for our folks in Miami. So we had to make a very, very difficult decision to cancel Winter Party 2022. I mean, we're in the latest surge of COVID. We all talked about a worst case scenario and a new variant and a new surge, and this is where we are. So, again, like I said, we'd like nothing more than to come together and celebrate, especially Winter Party, which is a huge celebration of community and resilience and connection. And, especially for not just the staff, but for the family of volunteers and folks who really help this event happen in Miami every year. It is really heartbreaking. I mean, people were literally like in tears when we had to make this decision. And, it's unfortunate. They did decide that it did not really translate for virtual, and we don't really have time to pivot to create a virtual event. So,
and it's such a wonder, and it's not just a party full of incredibly hot toned gay
Correct.
boys and me.
Yep.
It's a fundraiser also. So we're missing out on that, and that makes me sad as well. But I mean, this is the world that we live in, ladies. We're not that we're getting used to it, but I thank you for wanting to keep us safe. At the end of the day, that's got to be the most important part of it all. So ladies, I don't want to keep you longer because I know, again, you guys are always out there saving the world. What else are you ladies working on for this year? I know that the vote is super important.
Well, I mean, I think that for the task force, our campaign for this year is essentially Queer the Vote. we'll be launching the campaign at Creating Change March 19th and 20th. And, it's also our work every day. I mean, we've been doing work around voting rights. We've been doing a tremendous work around reproductive rights. Working at the intersection of all of these progressive issues and issues that are important to our larger community, our entire community is, that's the task force sweet spot. And so we are doubling down. We are putting all our chips in to really do everything we can, because the reality is our democracy is at stake. This is not simply about queer rights, right? This is about all our rights.
Thank you, ladies, so much. And now, lastly, just I got a little personal note, okay? So I'm a huge Amy Schneider fan on Jeopardy. She is kicking ass and taking names.
Yes,
are you guys following? Are you guys loving it as much as I am?
She just broke through again, another barrier. She's gone over 1 million, right?
Yes, she does.
Yeah.
And
It's
she is
pretty
the top.
amazing.
She's the
Yeah.
top woman.
Awesome.
She's the top woman.
Yep.
It feels like the queer Super Bowl every night. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, get your snacks, rah.
Kind of a nerdy queer Super Bowl, but yes.
Yes, perfect.
Hey, for this dummy, I'm learning stuff every day. So thank you, Amy
that's
Schneider,
awesome.
all right? Well, ladies, thank you so much. Miss Cathy Renna, Miss Jamie Grant, thank you for being friends of the show, being friends of mine. I so
Absolutely.
appreciate everything that you do. And I have a feeling that I'll be seeing you again on our show real soon.
Absolutely. Thanks, Faye. Take care.
Love you, ladies. Keep
Okay.
kicking ass. So, did you enjoy the show? I know you did. So make sure to click subscribe so you won't miss any of the events, news, or interviews right here.